Hello, my name is Dr. Katie Dockweiler. I am a nationally certified school psychologist and co-founder of Healthy Mind Safe Schools, a rapid risk identification and intervention program. We wanted to find a way to work with the schools to really bolster their existing programming and create those wraparound mental health services a lot of schools don't have access to. So when we're talking about social emotional learning, we're talking about those protective factors, especially taught in the early grades, that teach students how to process information, how to be in an emotionally safe environment, how to have positive relationships with others. And so when we can teach those foundational skills, social emotional learning skills, they're protecting the students from having mental health issues later down the road. So we can't begin teaching social emotional learning skills or protective skills early enough. Students are observant to their environment from the day they are born, and they're picking up what's happening, and they're learning what's socially acceptable and what's expected from day one. And so the way I like to compare it is we learn our social emotional learning skills just like we learn how to read. So we learn how to identify emotions. I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel frustrated. And then we're able, as our skills develop, we can connect that to an action or a behavior. I feel happy when, I feel angry when, I feel frustrated when. And so those foundational building blocks of emotions and mental health help us as we learn more complex emotions and skills later. Now, comparing that to reading, we teach our students this is an A, this is a K, this is a W. And then we teach our students to blend. And then once they have those foundational skills, they can then transfer that over into more complex learning. So we really need to teach these building blocks, if you will, of social emotional learning so we can prevent those mental health issues later. Most schools have at least one of the 3 different school-based mental health professionals. You have your school psychologists, school counselors, and school social workers. So it's important to know that those professionals exist on a campus and that as parents, we have rights and access to communicate with those individuals. Sometimes you can find emails on a school website, or you can just call up the front desk at the office and say, I have this concern about my student's mental health. Do you have a school psychologist or a school counselor that I can speak with? So PTAs can collaborate with school psychologists and school counselors to share research and best practice with their families. From behavioral strategies to academic support, school-based mental health providers can offer support on a variety of topics. So school psychologists are highly trained developmental specialists and can help answer families' questions when they have concerns. For example, is this behavior okay for a 6-year-old? Or my high school student is sneaking out and hiding things from me, what could be going on? School psychologists can walk families through guided facilitation and problem solving to help begin answering some of these questions. PTAs can also advocate for more social emotional learning or SEL and mental health supports for their students. This may be at the state level, at the district level, school level, or all 3. Sometimes a need is SEL curriculum, behavior intervention strategies, or school-based mental health providers to actually run counseling groups. All of these supports fit under a service delivery model known as a multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, and when done correctly, they don't have to cost the school anything. Every classroom should be offering social emotional instruction to help their students learn appropriate friendship-seeking behaviors, behavior regulation, emotional processing. All those skills are foundational for mental health later down the road. And as a parent, just knowing that that's okay to ask for that. And you can ask the principal, is this something that your school is doing? And if not, say, please, can we do this? And then you can reach out to your school-based mental health provider to see which programs or services are out there that can be used in the setting that your school is in. Oftentimes, it's just knowing to ask, and then after making that ask, those services can be delivered. And sometimes partnering with your PTA group at that school can be more impactful because collective voice can carry more weight than one individual voice alone. So when looking at the research, students struggle with mental health issues. They had issues before that pandemic, and the pandemic just really exacerbated and highlighted the need for supporting our students through difficult times. So the research suggests that 1 in 5 youth will experience a mental health issue at some point in their youth, and approximately 80% of students who need support with their mental health issues don't receive them. And then of the students who do receive those supports, 80% of the students receive them in the school setting. It's so critical that we have mental health providers in the schools who can address the kids' needs and be there to support them when they're reaching out for help or when teachers are seeking help for their students. Unaddressed mental health needs can lead to a variety of different issues down the road. It can lead to contribute to the school to prison pipeline. It can increase suspensions, expulsions, dropouts, and it can have a whole bunch of different economic issues down the road. PTA leaders who want to advocate for more social emotional learning and mental health supports in the schools can begin at the top. I would recommend reaching out collaboratively and collectively as one shared voice to your state representatives. For example, your Senate leaders and other elected members of the legislature. You just need to connect with just one who can champion your cause, and odds are there's a whole bunch of other legislators who would support the initiatives being put forward. The beautiful thing about having statutory changes made at the state level is that they're much more difficult to change down the road. So for example, if a district were to say, we are going to support social emotional learning this year, and they set a policy, it's easy for them to change that policy the following year, and then students get support one year and they don't get support the next year. But if PTA leaders can really take their advocacy efforts and champion it all the way to the state level, then it's much more likely that there will be some continuity of services, because it's much more difficult to change statutory and regulatory policy than district policy. I will also say that it's incredibly powerful when PTA leaders can partner with other state associations, for example, their state school psychology association or counselor association, because that collective voice can carry so much weight to make positive changes for students. I've seen it happen, it's amazing. And one other thing that can be advocated for, which I don't think is on a lot of radars regarding mental health, is we talk about the services that students receive in school, which is incredibly important. What we often don't talk about is the lack of school-based mental health professionals available to provide those services. So one way we can get services to students is to advocate for more school counselors, more school psychologists, and more school social workers, because then we'll have more individuals in the schools who are trained and qualified to actually deliver the services that students need. I would recommend going to your local school board, and you can give public comment. It's usually only a couple minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and you can share your concerns. And I would also suggest making real concrete examples. Use what's happening in your school as an example to highlight to them what's going on in real life, because a lot of times they don't know. Our elected officials don't often know, because they have jobs and they have other things that they're doing in addition to their service to the community on the school board. And so if we as parents can really bring those concerns and give them concrete examples, it gives them a better idea of what's happening, and then they'll know how to address that. So PTA leaders can support students' mental health and well-being by sharing resources. They can lead advocacy efforts, whether it be at the district level or at the state level. And really, especially now, they can help to normalize the stigma associated with mental health. So if PTA leaders are talking about mental health just like we would any other health condition, it really helps to normalize the conversation, and so it makes it okay for other families to share in that dialogue. There are a lot of community-based organizations that PTA leaders can partner with to begin learning more about mental health in the schools. I would recommend reaching out to your local chapter of your school psychologist associations and your school counselor associations, and also your school social worker associations, because they can help parents learn how to advocate and to share information and resources about mental health. In addition to the students experiencing mental health issues and crises, our teachers and our educators are also experiencing their own mental health issues. One of the ways that PTA leaders and parents and families can support the educators is just by sending them notes. Send them notes, send them an email, a handwritten thank you for the time you're spending with my child. It will go a long way to the educator's mental health. Because if we have educators who burn out and our teachers burn out and they're no longer in our classrooms, it's only going to further exacerbate the issues that our children are experiencing. So in addition to advocating for mental health supports for our students, we need to advocate for mental health supports for our teachers and educators, because we are certainly an education system. It's not just a system of teachers or of students or of principals. We're all in this together, and if we're not all mentally well, then it's not going to go well.